The second season of My Hero Academia has brought with it one of the most satisfying and cathartic fights I've seen in a while. And I'm not just saying that due to Yutaka Nakamura's splendid animation cuts leading to an experience that most would argue superseded that which could be found in the original material. Because in one episode, I like to think that this show managed to properly convey the ethos of its underlying themes at their most visceral. Those of course being the specifics of Lineage and how we struggle to let it define who we are as a person. Battles based on birthright are nothing new to shonen manga, the most famous example arguably being the iconic rivalry between Goku and Vegeta, both of whom constantly struggle with their lineage, which acts as the main source of conflict between them. One is an alien raised on Earth, who for the longest time was ignorant of what he really was, while the other is a prince whose decisions and attitudes are bound by the honor he feels towards his race.
No low-class bottom feeder can surpass me in strength! I am the culmination of everything superior in the Saiyan race!
The former eventually learns to embrace his Saiyan heritage in order to stop those more powerful than him, while the latter is arguably at his strongest when he abandons the pride of his race for the sake of his new family. My Hero Academia, on the other hand, takes these ideas in a far more straightforward direction, encapsulated right at the beginning with the very foundation of All Might and Deku's relationship. Deku is a character who was literally denied any sense of lineage at an early age when he failed to inherit a quirk from his own parents. And while that does devastate him at first, All Might reminds him that he shouldn't let that lack of inheritance define who he is. In fact, it's that desire to help people despite not having a quirk that inspires All Might to give Deku his. Almost as if the show suggests that it takes an everyman without powers to ironically be worthy of inheriting those abilities in the first place.
Young man, you too can become a hero. I deem you worthy of my power. My quirk is yours to inherit.
And how fitting is it that One for All is a unique quirk that completely revolves around that idea of inheritance, one that literally seems to get stronger as people pass down their power and experiences to another. In some ways, it's tempting to make the parallel to characters like Peter Parker, which is an apt comparison as My Hero Academia's original creator has often cited Spiderman as among his favorite superheroes. And those stories were also very much about a young nerd who comes to embrace a great responsibility as his own in a world filled with people who continue to outclass him.
The life he's led is so different than mine. It sounds terrifying. How strange that we could be aiming for the same thing despite such different childhoods.
But then we have Endeavor and Todoroki, whose father-son connection can be seen as a mirrored perversion of that idea. If one is a bond meant to symbolize how passing on your experiences and wisdom goes far beyond one's bloodline, then the other seems to struggle with the idea that blood is all that matters. Here, lineage becomes nothing but an excuse to see children as tools, an extension of one's present desires to overcome those who they can't surpass now, but might eventually surpass in the future if you mix the right parts together. Todoroki has every reason to feel trapped by those he's inherited his powers from, as he was left scarred from both parents over what he can potentially become rather than who he already is. His mother goes so far as to physically harm her son because she eventually starts seeing him as an extension of his father rather than his own person, while Endeavor calls Todoroki his masterpiece, almost proud of the fact that he manufactured the birth of his son through an arranged marriage for his personal gain.
So this is why Todoroki's so focused. He's like a comic book character. A hero with a tragic backstory, fighting to rise above it.
And so presents the fight's central dichotomy. While Deku's heroic essence is so powerful that his body can't contain it, Todoroki sees his body as something that must be limited for the sake of carving his own identity. But while he has every reason to reject his father's firepower, as he feels that using it somehow makes him less of his own person and more like his father's creation, My Hero Academia seems to suggest that this could not be further from the truth, because no matter how powerful his fire and ice quirks might be, separately they will only get him so far. Endeavor's position as the number 2 hero due to his inability to beat All Might, ironically, is proof of that.
You think you can win with half your strength? Look at me, Todoroki. You haven't managed to put a single scratch on me yet. So come at me with all you've got!
For better or worse, we all stand to gain something from those who came before us, but the important thing that can't be inherited is the power of choice. Characters like Deku and Spiderman aren't great heroes because they were lucky enough to be given superpowers. They're made great because of how they choose to use them. To quote Uncle Ben's now infamously revered mantra, with great power comes great responsibility. But despite that, we still have the ability to shape who we are regardless of where that power came from.
Yes, that's right.
Children often do inherit quirks from their parents, or develop similar power sets. But the most important thing to remember is that a quirk is what you make of it, regardless of your history. You decide how you use it. That's what I mean when I say I am here. Only you can decide to become a hero, no one else. Take this to heart, kids. You got it.
If Todoroki wants to break his curse, if he wants to find the balance between the numbing frost that chips away at his body and the fiery passion he struggles to keep in check, then no one is stopping him except himself. It's only when he literally combines the opposing powers that reside inside of him that he's finally able to metaphorically become whole. In fact, you could even argue that Todoroki's attitude is no different than Class B's plans from the previous games, which were seen as shallow and disrespectful towards those who are doing everything in their power to succeed. Sure, we might see Todoroki's actions as justified because that internal struggle is so relatable to those who crave that sense of individuality. But to everyone else, it might just look like he's taking things for granted. If people keep rejecting the parts of who they are, then they'll never truly be at their best. And if we can't make use of every advantage we've been given, then we can never challenge each other to improve as everyone desperately aims for the top.
That's why I'll give it my all! Just like you should be!
With every smash that leaves him more crippled, with every muscle he tears, you feel Deku's frustration as he tries to get that message through to his opponent. And even though he lost the match, there's more to being a hero than just winning fights. If a hero's duty is to inspire others to be the best that they can, then he's already taken that next step towards being that symbol of peace he chose to become. Alan Moore might have coined the term, "Who watches the Watchmen?" But I'd like to think that My Hero Academia would much rather ask, "Who inspires the heroes?" There's a reason why this fight isn't just titled Deku vs Todoroki like the episode before it, and this isn't just called Todoroki's origin because we get more of a backstory that was already told to us after the cavalry battle. Rather, it's because this episode ignited the real start of his hero's journey. Todoroki's finally been pushed to accept who he really is and devote his entire being to that completely personal desire to become a hero. The one thing that nobody, not even his father, should be able to take away from him. In more ways than one, this can only be described as a fight that will further define the past, present, and future generations to come for both its characters as well as its viewers.
What is justice? What does it mean to be a hero? I'm still figuring all that out, but I have learned some things. It's okay to fall. It's okay to cry. You just have to keep moving forward. You have to go beyond. Ah!